Hello, everyone, and welcome to your latest episode of Espace News. This week, we shall review what's going on at Starbase, discuss a little bit on Sierra Space Station, as well as JAXA's Moon Lander, and we go through some basics on Mars and the launches of the week. SpaceX is progressing at high pace in preparation for the integrated flight test number 3. We have seen launch mounts updates, including some replacements and improvement made on the Starship Quick Disconnect, which was damaged during the IFT number 2, some tank farm testing as well. More horizontal tanks have joined Starbase launch site in replacement of the vertical tanks and future launch facility expansion as previously mentioned by SpaceX. Somewhat strange is the installation of vertical reinforcement of 2 vertical tanks. Now we have seen some of these tanks buckling not due to debris impacting them, but rather sheer pressure exerted by the 33 Raptor engines during booster takeoff. So the reinforcement is likely related to the pressure generated by these Raptors, and SpaceX has already well progressed on booster 10, obviously because it is the one flying in the coming weeks, but also booster 11 and 12. You can see now the booster 13 commencing its stacking in the Mega Bay. And finally, SpaceX has submitted its Starship mishap report to the FAA, meaning that the only hurdle left for the next flight tests is the FAA recommendation from that report and update of the launch license. Aerospace has the ambition of having a private space station to replace the aging International Space Station, as well as developed private space activities and space tourism. For that reason, they are developing what they call Life Habitat, an inflatable space module providing spacious living quarters. Sierra Space have previously tested 2 small-scale modules, one with and one without windows or simply opening. But this week, they finally successfully tested a full-scale module reaching 77 psi or 5.3 bars before it burst, which was 27% above the maximum operating pressure, including safety factors of 4. A big milestone from Sierra Space, bringing them closer to this private space station. Continuing in my quest to bring basic facts about our solar system to the newcomers, it is now time to speak about Mars, the 4th planet from the Sun. It was discovered in 1609 by Galileo Galilei. It is known as the Red Planet because it's covered with or by iron oxide dust. And Mars was named as the Roman god of war in Roman mythology because his reddish color was reminiscent of blood. Mars hosts many enormous and extinct volcanoes and one of the largest canyons in the solar system called Valles Marineris along its equator, named after one of NASA's probes called Mariner. Mars is about half the size of Earth by diameter and has as much thinner atmosphere with a atmospheric volume less than 1% of Earth. The atmospheric composition is 96% of carbon dioxide, 2% of nitrogen, and 2% of argon. It is located on an average of 229 million kilometers or 142 million miles, or even 1.5 times further away from the Sun compared to Earth. A Martian day, or also called Sol, is 37 minutes longer than an Earth day, and a Martian year takes 687 Earth days. Mars has an average temperature of minus 63 Celsius degree or minus 81 degree Fahrenheit, and its gravity is 3.71 meter per square second, which is 38% smaller than that on Earth. So a 100 kilogram person would feel like a 38 kilogram person on Mars. It does not presently have a global magnetic field. However, Mars has a very strong crustal magnetic field, meaning a magnetic field generated by the planet crust, more than 30 times stronger than that of Earth. Now, there is still lots of unknowns regarding Mars' aurora borealis, usually created by this magnetic Earth, but widespread auroras occur in its north hemisphere, whilst rarer cases are visible in the south hemisphere. It has only two moons, Phobos and Deimos. They are irregular in shape and were discovered by the American astronomer Asaph Hall in August 1877. Mars has attracted many interests as it is the closest and least hostile planet to build a colony or at least a base. Many countries have sent probes and rovers to the Red Planet, which is why we know a lot more about Mars than any other planets in our solar system. And NASA even managed to make an helicopter fly in such a thin atmosphere, an engineering task which is far from easy. This helicopter, called Ingenuity, flew for 71 flights, over 1,000 sols, but sadly broke one of his composite blades this week, making the end of helicopter flight for now. So rest in peace, Ingenuity. Although Mars used to be wetter, warmer, and more habitable than today, scientists have yet to discover life on Mars. The search continues, with the various rovers and a Mars sample retrieval program planned in the next few years. Nevertheless, Elon Musk is making SpaceX's mission to colonize Mars and even branded Starbase the gateway to Mars. I covered last week the departure of the Axiom 3 mission to the ISS with a Falcon 9. This week, the team has arrived in the ISS and they were welcomed, and they're now working to accomplish a series of experiments for the next fortnight. You may remember from my previous episode that the Smart Lander for Investigating Moon, or SLIM for short, has landed on the Moon's surface. You could see the footage taken by SLIM prior to landing and just after landing. The Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, along with the University of Aizu and Ritsumeikan University, has released images captured by the multi-band camera on board SLIM. Now, SLIM released two small robots called LEV 1 and LEV 2. The first good news is that both robots have been roaming around on the Moon's surface and communicating directly with Earth, some 380,000 kilometers away. And amazingly enough, LEV 2 is only 2.1 kilogram, as you see, quite a small size, transmitting from so far away a technology prowess. The second good news is that SLIM did land softly, 55 meters or 180 feet away from the intended target. So the aim was to land within 100 meters or 330 feet of the target, which was a massive achievement in such a tricky guided landing. The bad news though is that the lander landed on his nose rather than on his side or belly, with his solar panels currently facing west instead of north, suggesting that there is the possibility for power generation and therefore recovery of SLIM as the sunlight illumination condition improves with time. Now, this was though to be due to one of his engines malfunctioning. Well, all is not lost, and once again, well done, JAXA. January 20th, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force launched a Qayyam 100 from his Shahroud missile test site in Iran, successfully deploying a 50-kilogram Soraya satellite at an altitude of 750 km. January 23rd, CAS Space has launched its third rocket, Kinetica 1, from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in China, with 5 satellites on board: the Tianjin 103, the Tianjin 202 and 204, the Tianjin 302, and the Tianjin 403. Now, CAS Space is a young Chinese commercial space launch company founded only in 2018, of mixed ownership, partially owned by the Chinese Academy of Science. It is located in Guangzhou in China, and the firm has also mentioned that they intend to develop the second generation Kinetica 2 with reusability for an expected maiden launch in August 2025, but emphasis on the first stage reusability will not be available before 2028. January 24th, SpaceX launched 22 Starlink V2 mini satellites to circular low Earth orbit at 530 km altitude and 53-degree inclination for its mission Group 711. On board a Falcon 9 from its Space Launch Complex 4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The first stage landed for its 16th times, 642 km downrange on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You. Now, this particular flight has been delayed quite a lot. In fact, the previous one as well, because at the moment around Vandenberg it's quite a poor weather. Meet the Virgin Galactic 6 crew: Lina Borozdina of Ukrainian and American citizenship, the American Robbie Vaughan, the Austrian Franz Heider, and finally the American Neil Cornsfit. On January 26th, the Spaceship Two took off from Spaceport America for its 6th commercial air launch to suborbital flight above the Sierra County Desert in New Mexico. Before I leave you to your full week ahead, look at that incredible feast of colors taken by the James Webb Space Telescope of the nebula known as N79 in the Large Magellanic Cloud, a satellite galaxy of our Milky Way. Now, N79 is a massive star-forming complex spanning roughly about 1630 light years, or 0.9 quintillion miles, or 1.5 quintillion kilometers, in the generally unexplored southwest region. Now, just for our newcomers, 1 quintillion is 1 billion billion. Now, what is particular to this nebula is that researchers believe its star formation is happening much faster than noticed on previous nebula, such as the 30 Doradus previously mentioned in one of my episodes. So Webb is now providing astronomers the opportunity to compare and contrast observations of star formation in N79 with the telescope's deep observation of distant galaxies in the early universe. The distinct starburst pattern surrounding this bright object is a series of diffraction spikes, in this case 6, which are artifacts from the design of the telescope, only happening when the light source is very bright. Thank you for watching your episode of Airspace News. I wish you a great weekend and week. I'm Christophe Paget, and see you next week. Goodbye.